Celtics cruise control crush job in game one. You were wondering about Porzingis after a month off? He's okay! Celtics roll on a night where the stars were out. They were all out.
Look at that.
Stanley Cup full predictions and back to back. The Sooners are champs again. Let's go around the horn.
What'd you guys put me out of that picture? I was there. That open.
Frank got the group chat. That was 1,074 victories, and also Frank Isola in that photo. The first quarter for Kristaps Porzingis going a long way for the Celtics in crushing the Mavs in Finals Game 1. You weren't sure what he could give. He gave a lot in that first quarter especially. It's found money for Boston. But it wasn't just Porzingis. Full team effort, collective effort, dominating the three-point line as they are wont to do. One of the stats of the night was holding Luka Doncic to 1 assist. Kyrie Irving had some turnovers he doesn't typically have. Celtics cruising in game 1. Frank Isola, you were there, but you didn't make it into that photo with Bob and Jackie and Tim.
I was working.
Yes, of course you were, and we appreciate you that. Biggest takeaway from game 1, and how does it make you think about the rest of the series?
Well, Dallas was inept offensively. Boston was outstanding defensively. And I thought today we'd be talking about an Eastern European. I thought it'd be Doncic. I did not think it'd be Kristaps Porzingis. Let's think about it. Had not played since April 29th. And all right, you're going to throw a guy into a game. This is game 1 of the NBA Finals. He came in at 12-11. That was the score at the time. And by the time the quarter was over, Boston had the biggest first quarter lead at the end of a first quarter in game 1 Finals history.
Right.
The 11 points he scored. But how about the job he did defensively? The 2 block shots, especially the chase down block on Josh Green. I thought that was who knows if he's going to score 20 points again for the rest of the series, but that was big because Tatum wasn't great and the Celtics still got to win.
Gordy Cronin, number 1 takeaway from game 1 for you.
What a masterclass defensively by the Boston Celtics. 9 blocks as a team. And I know that the finals at this stage should be about your stars. And yeah, they did take away Kyrie Irving. They forced him into some uncharacteristically bad shots. But they also took away the depth of this Dallas Mavericks team, which has had a handful of contributions in getting them to this point. You didn't get that from P.J. Washington. You didn't get that from Derrick Jones Jr. And you certainly didn't get it from Maxi Kleber. The assist stat that you mentioned, I don't think any of us can remember a time where a team only had 9 assists in a game. So much of that was because of how Boston forced them into effectively playing iso ball in game 1 of the NBA Finals. I never thought I'd say something like that. And, the bench contributions they didn't get is something that if they want to make this an even series in game 2, that's where they've got to go.
I've heard Porzingis. I've heard defense. I go to David Dennis Jr. now for number 1 takeaway.
Number 1 takeaway is figuring out what is replicable versus what is sustainable. Namely, in that first quarter that the Mavs had to deal with Boston. The things that, you can say are not going to happen again. Boston was 7 for 15 from 3. They were on fire in that first quarter. Porzingis was walking up, making threes from 30 feet away. You can say that those things are not going to happen again. But what you have to worry about is the stuff that seems sustainable, the problems that Dallas has. Defensively, they could not stand in front of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, especially in that third quarter. Boston was 17 for 25 in the paint. They were carving up that defense. Now, on the other side, Dallas offensively, they struggled mightily. We talk about the assists. It's not just the 1 assist from Doncic. There was only 6 assist points where Doncic passed that could have been assists for that Mavs team, which is extremely low, and they only converted on 1 of those. Assist opportunities, sorry. And so they only converted on 1 of those. They missed a lot of wide open shots in that third quarter, but that offense is struggling, and Kyrie Irving needs to play better than that 6 for 19.
Of course.
If they're going to
All right, so it was irreplicable versus sustainable for you, although Boston's strategy all season long has been shoot more threes than the opposition, and we like our chances. Pablo Torre, I turn to you. Number 1 takeaway from game 1.
So the three-point rate, Tony, should be a headline here. It is crazy how many threes the Celtics shoot and how few threes the Mavericks did. Yeah. The Mavericks should be better at that. They should try more than that. But all of this sort of connects to me when we talk about those assist numbers. So why are those assist numbers so low? It's because Luka and Kyrie could not beat defenders one-on-one. These are two of the best one-on-one players we've ever seen, and they couldn't do it one-on-one against the Celtics. And what does that mean? It means that you're not getting a double team, which means that you're not getting guys who are these three-point shooters open. It all connects to Luka and Kyrie needing to be the best versions of themselves. And Courtney's worried about iso ball. I'm not worried about iso ball if they are winning one-on-one. And so 42 points in 45 minutes for Luka and Kyrie, you could say, not the problem. They need to have more than that because it opens up everybody else.
Frank Isola, back to you. Game 2, you'll be there. Adjustments now for Dallas.
Yeah, a big one has to be Kyrie Irving. You know, Kyrie was 6 of 19. He didn't really look like he was into the game. And, the crowd, yes, they're always going to get on Kyrie, but it really wasn't as hostile as it was. A couple of things to remember about Dallas when you talk about the assist. Here's a team that throughout the playoffs has had 54 lob dunks. Yesterday, that's 10 more than, nobody else in the league has more than 10 in the playoffs. They had one lob attempt. So what have they made their money on? With Luka and Kyrie with the ball, but knocking down corner threes and lobs at the rim. They didn't get any of that, and you have to give Boston a lot of credit for what they did defensively.
Kyrie and Luka have to win the mismatches. Not only were they losing one-on-one possessions, as Pablo was saying, they were losing them against the bigs. You have to beat Horford. Right. You have to beat Porzingis. They cannot be able to defend you in the perimeter. The Mavs, and not only for their own scoring, but the fact that Mavs only attempted 2 corner threes for the entire game. They have to win those matchups and force Boston to blitz, and that's where Luka's at his
Courtney,
strongest.
super quick, and then I want to pick for the weekend game. Go ahead, Courtney.
I mean, Jaden Hardy is the only one who scored off the bench in double figures. So going back to the bench point, that's where they need more contributions. But is anybody surprised about this, considering the Mavs have been outscored 489 to 389 in game ones this season, and they've also
they haven't
series that they lost.
Maximized on
they
game
won
ones.
the Clippers and the Thunder.
So talk to me about game 2. Make a pick here, Courtney. We got to move on, but a pick, please.
I've got Dallas winning in game 2.
There it is. So someone does believe there's an adjustment and a change. Dennis, how about you?
Dallas is bad in game 1s. Boston's bad at home in game 2s. I think the Mavs win game 2.
Pablo?
Mavs haven't lost 2 consecutive games this postseason. I'm picking the Mavs.
And Isola.
You know what? I'm going to go with Boston. I think Tatum is going to play a lot better. I think they go up 2-0, which doesn't mean the series is over, though.
We'll move on. Now, Stanley Cup final preview. Game 1 tomorrow night. Looking at the stars, McDavid, Bobrovsky, of course, also looking for X factors outside of those. And then Y factors outside of those X factors. I'm looking for Z factors that will decide Z Stanley Cup final. Around the horn, Courtney Cronin.
It's kind of similar to how we view the NBA Finals, the star power versus the depth. And very clearly, Edmonton is in position there, whether it's Connor McDavid, whether it's Leon Draisaitl, all of the contributions they have from their top-tier guys. But what about the special teams? I mean, we know that they have the edge there, but Florida's penalty kill is not a slouch by any stretch. I think Florida's depth here and what's going to happen in those minutes where the Stars are not on the ice for Edmonton is ultimately what decides the series.
Frank Isola.
Connor McDavid has 31 points thus far in the postseason. That's the most out of any player, 26 assists. I think a big part is going to be Alexander Barkov of Florida. He shut down Panarin in the last series against the Rangers. Do you realize that he was on the ice for 5-on-5 against Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad for 45 minutes, and they scored 0 goals. So he has the ability to shut down players defensively. He'll be assigned to Connor McDavid throughout a lot of this series. That's going to be crucial.
Best defensive forward in the NHL this year, Barkov. Pablo Torre, X factor, Y factor, Z factor is what I want.
I do think McDavid is the factor preventing everybody from getting good Z's. If you're Barkov, I want to focus on his counterpart, right, Tony? If you're Alexander Barkov, you know that this is the final exam. This is the final exam you have nightmares about when you're 60. Yeah. You wake up in a cold sweat and you realize, I got to stop Connor McDavid, who's the fastest player in this sport.
But he leads the entire postseason.
Right there.
But has he had that impact? Has it felt like he's leading the entire postseason? Does it feel like he's owned this postseason is my question.
Not to his potential as allegedly the most skilled player in NHL history, which is lots of people's opinion. What I would say, though, the goal between the two of them, Draisaitl and McDavid, is hold them under 1.5 points a game on average. And to do that, it's not just Barkov. It's, of course, a team effort because you can't do it with just one guy. But that is the guy who has the responsibility. And I just give me McDavid.
Give you the best player on the ice. Sometimes we see the best player can be neutralized in the Stanley Cup final more than even in other championship games. David Dennis Jr., to you.
This is about power plays and penalty kills, about the Oilers coming in with 37% conversion on power plays, which is the 8th most all time. They come into the finals number one in power play and penalty kills. The Panthers are right behind them. But if they can win that power play and dominate and lean on McDavid on the 5-5, which they did against the Stars when they outscored 7-4, McDavid was in those positions, then they have that opportunity to steal the series.
National panel, this may be a first for us to have a preview extravaganza for the final, and no one even mentioned a goaltender on either side. Courtney Cronin, last words here.
I think experience comes into effect here, considering what Florida went through last year. They had a lot of injuries. Sam Bennett was injured. Matthew Tkachuk was injured. In the Stanley Cup final when they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights, they don't have those same sort of injuries that are holding them back now. I think that will ultimately, that can be your F factor.
Okay.
Let's throw another
But
letter.
still, nobody. Consider me impressed. Sometimes you guys just focus on the goaltenders. Make a pick for the series. Isola.
I'll give you one. Stuart Skinner is going to lose. Florida's going to win the Stanley
Whoa,
Cup.
that was kind of almost insulting.
I gave you a goaltender.
That was aggressive, okay? Pablo Torre.
We're just making this segment, Tony, stand on its head, as it were.
David Dennis Jr., you got a pick, please?
Oilers in
Take
7.
Edmonton, for the record.
Courtney Cronin.
Florida in 6.
How did you guys go the whole segment without mentioning Bobrovsky? What is that? You guys getting real small.
Such a good name.
How small can they get?
Oh, great.
How small can they get?
Welcome back to Around the Horn, brought to you by Chase. Coming to you from the Seaport District at Pier 17.
4 Pete's. Even the word sounds unattainable. Famous 4 Pete's in history, the Yankees, Celtics, Canadiens, Islanders, UCLA basketball. Those are the old days. North Carolina soccer, Iowa wrestling, Penn State wrestling, UConn basketball more recently to name some. And now Oklahoma softball, first ever in the sport. What Patty Gasso has created and the tricks she pulled. Carly Keeney, a surprise start. Peyton Monticelli also throwing after not having pitched in a month. Sidney Sanders, the big hit. That crazy out caught off the bag at first to snipe out a Texas rally. And the crowd in Oklahoma City, and this is part of the conversation, kind of a home team situation, witnessing a 4-peat. Courtney Cronin, what you buy from this bit of history last night?
Buying it's one of the greatest dynasties in sports, and that this senior class is going to go down as historic. 235-15 in their 4 years, a 940 win percentage, and to do that against a Texas team that was virtually flawless going into the final. They had not allowed a run in 3 Women's College World Series games, and then gave up 16 to Oklahoma in 2 games.
David Dennis Jr.
I'm buying all the things that went wrong for them this season. Hear me out. They lose Jordy Ball. They end their 70-plus game win streak. They end their 20-game win streak in the postseason, and they overcome these things. Dynasties are great because of how they win, but also what they overcome to get there. We saw a flawed team. We saw a team that overcame obstacles, and that makes this as sweet as any of the championships that they've won. 4 in a row is just incredible.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, I sell the idea that the relative home field advantage mattered. I would pick Oklahoma softball if they were playing on the moon. I would pick them in any circumstance at this point.
For some
Tony,
have suggested it is an advantage.
A Mansky +1 back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I just don't. In a world of uncertainty, in which chaos has consumed our institutions, Oklahoma softball remains stable, and I thank them for providing something to rely on.
It's the program that gets results, as Fred McGriff might say. And Frank Isola, how about you?
I love 235-15. I've lost 15 times just this year on this show. They lost 15 times over 4 years. How about Kelly Maxwell, 3-0 in the tournament? She had a save, 32 strikeouts in 27 innings. You mentioned North Carolina women's soccer with Anson Dorrance, 9 straight. You left out Maryland lacrosse.
Yes,
The
that's
women's
another.
team won
You're
7
right,
in a row,
100%
Tony.
right about that. There have been, but never before in softball. And we had some great dynasties in history in softball, but not 4 in a row. And that's what Oklahoma is right now.
Great tournament.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 2, the meeting today in Los Angeles. Danny Hurley and the Los Angeles Lakers. David, what are you buying? What are you selling about all this today?
I'm buying that this seems like it makes sense for both parties. The Los Angeles Lakers are finally going to do something that they failed to do each time they've had the superstar in this century, as they've thought about the end of that superstar's career and the future beyond it. When you have somebody like Hurley, yes, he's going to, pay dividends for LeBron and AD right now, but when LeBron is gone, Hurley is going to build up young talent, and you already have a key cog in your team when you have to do that rebuild and build young players. This seems like a slam dunk for
This
everybody.
seems like a slam dunk, says Dennis. Tori, how about you?
I just want to see him yell at LeBron. I watch a lot of Danny Hurley clips, and I'm like, wow, that guy is coaching college players.
Yes.
I wonder
Yes.
how this is going to go with the opposite. So for me, it feels like the leaks about this, honestly, Tony, around this story, it feels like people in an organization, whether it's JJ, whether it's Danny Hurley, they're all sort of like arguing with each other in public. And that feels to me like the larger story about
Sure,
this
but it's
story.
also diametric opposition, right? JJ Redick's doing podcasts with Wine, with LeBron, and you see how they have
That's
a
right.
built rapport with each other. Danny Hurley, who LeBron has publicly said, what a great coach, but is operating Frank Isola on a way, much different level.
Yeah. Yeah, my radio partner Brian Scalabrine has been saying for 2 years that Danny Hurley is the best coach not in the NBA. It makes so much sense for the Lakers. But Danny Hurley, born in Jersey City, went to high school in Jersey City, coached in Jersey City. It does not feel like LA. I would be very surprised if this it just for him doesn't make sense. The NBA he'll eventually get an NBA job. I just don't think this is the right one for
That's
him,
from a
'cause I don't think
regional
the Lakers are gonna be
perspective.
that good.
He wouldn't be the first from Jersey to move to LA, but actually from a mentality where he's a college coach's college coach, right, Frank? How do you think that would apply to LeBron, Anthony Davis, and NBA players?
You know what? I think he comes in there with a lot of credibility, and I think a lot of people think he's a genius offensively. And the fact that he's won 2 national championships, I understand what you're saying, but the coaches know when they come into the NBA, you need to change the way you talk to players just a little bit.
Courtney Cronin, how about you?
Yeah, this is an offense that's predicated on off-ball movement and three-pointers. I think it will translate well to the NBA. I also think the player development aspect here cannot be overlooked. He's got 2 players in Donovan Clingan and Stephon Castle who are going to be lottery picks. They didn't go into college with that sort of status. They were developed there. Cam Spencer is expecting to hear his name called in the NBA draft. This all boils down to Bronny James for me and having a coach that can actually develop his game so he has some staying power in the NBA far beyond
Is that
the time
really
that his
on the
dad's out
list
the
of
league.
things you're looking for when you're trying to name the next
Absolutely.
coach of your franchise? Where is Danny Hurley come Monday? Frank Isola? Is it Connecticut or is it Los Angeles?
Yeah, bet against me, but I'm going to say Storrs, Connecticut.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, he's staying east.
David Dennis Jr.?
He'll probably still be in Connecticut by Monday because the Lakers like to drag these things out, but he'll be a Laker by the end of the summer.
And Courtney Cronin.
I think he's the Lakers' next head coach.
Torre and Isola. Showdown next. Wow. Those new kickoff rules. Check out Justin Tucker. He says he's bulked up to get ready for tackles, adding 3 pounds of muscle. Some teams, Kansas City is one, wondering if a position player might kick off, a la Justin Reed in the past. Pablo, can you see kickoffs changing this much that kickers need to bulk up or defensive players need to kick?
Yeah, I don't want Justin Tucker to change himself at all. He's the best ever. I'd rather have give me a Justin Reed, Tony, to boom the ball through the back of the end zone. That's findable. The accuracy of a Justin Tucker, though, is not.
Isola.
No, here's the problem. You want him kicking between the goal line and the 20, and the Kansas City Chiefs are way ahead of the game because the stats have shown that the kickers are making like 20% of the tackles. They signed a rugby player,
Yes.
remember?
Yes.
Louis Rees-Zammit. He can do it as well.
You invoke
Chiefs,
the
way ahead
rare
of the
rugby
game.
bonus. You know how I feel about this Fordham Rugby. 1 career tackle. This guy right here.
Lord. Lord.
Showdown 2. Yankees news of the day. Better than news of the night. Juan Soto left yesterday's game with forearm soreness. Today's MRI, initial prognosis, inflammation, John Heyman reports. Frank, are we calling off the alarms?
Whew, thank God he's okay. It stinks if he doesn't play this weekend with Shohei Ohtani in town. But remember, he could always be the DH for a while. Good news in the Bronx. Again.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches right now. Aaron Judge looks like an MVP. Of course, Soto does too. Of course, Soto being a free agent, right? As long as he's good by October, Tone. October is what I'm focused on, as always.
October.
Should be focusing more
Long ways
on
away.
right now, the 30 seconds, Pablo Torre, which you do not get to experience because Frank Isola gets to do.
I finally beat Pablo. What's the biggest difference between Europeans and Americans? I'm not talking about portion size. Europeans don't care if you're ring chasing. Kylian Mbappe is the best player in the world. He just left his team in Paris and joined Real Madrid. They're the best team in the world. They just won the Champions League. Think about that. So Kevin Durant, guess what? I don't know if you're off the hook, but you have a partner in crime. The next time somebody goes after you, just tell them, hang on a second. Kylian Mbappe's ring chasing, just like I did. There's nothing wrong with it. Congratulations.
Wow, you went at Mbappe there, Frank.
No, it's good.
All right.
I'm happy for him.
One more thing. It's news of the world because one of the greats in the history of television and game shows says goodbye tonight. Pat Sajak, last show, the legend, the Wheel of Fortune, 41 years hosting. Can you imagine hosting a show for 41 years? 8100 episodes. How many contests? How many vowels? How many all-time moments? Pat, congrats. Enjoy your retirement.